You started this all off in 2002.
Hmm.
Um, you'd just on maternity leave. Walk us through what kind of prompted you to start this in the beginning.
So, and this was years before Domestic Angels was converted to a
Mm.
franchise. Is
Yeah,
a point to be well made. Um, I had returned to work post maternity leave, and this was before the laws changed. So I didn't have any flexibility. It was very constrained, and it wasn't a pleasant experience. So after about 8, 9 months, I managed to exit my position with redundancy terms, which gave me the space to consider what to do next. I didn't have a plan. Totally did not have a plan. I am very much a gut instinct person. I still am today, extremely kinesthetic. I know myself really, really well. I, I, I'm very rarely deliberate. I'll be intentional, but I'm not deliberate.
yeah.
And I didn't realize that I was going to start a business, but it's what happened as a result of chatting to friends. And so I started Domestic Angels to help one of my entrepreneurial friends because she didn't have help in her home. She had 3 kids and she's got a factory, all of this kind of thing going on. And it was very slow. And the first 5 years were extremely painful
Mm.
because I was employing people. I'd never employed people for myself before. And there's a distinct difference between employing people for yourself and recruiting a team when you are employed by somebody else. Say
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's massively different. Plus, you have to start learning all the processes and all the legal technicalities. And again, a lot of it was brand new for me and not beyond my brain power. However, the way you interpret those and apply them within the micro SME sector is vastly different to the corporate sector.
Mm, mm.
So, yeah, quite challenging those first 5 years. Fingers burnt is not sufficient, to be quite honest, but we got there and kept growing. And I appointed a couple of supervisors and we trundled along and we got bigger and bigger and bigger. And by 2012, we were crowned Home Based Business of the Year nationally.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was huge. And it was actually on that day that I first admitted to myself that I had a business. Because, like so many people who start a business from scratch, you don't think about it because it isn't deliberate and
Mm.
you're just doing it. You're trying to earn some money in order to keep the roof over your head and the food coming in on the table and to do life. And I wanted all the flexibility to be mum. So I wanted to be at the school gates. I wanted to put the dinner on the table, make the hot chocolates, all of that kind of thing. And I did. And so after winning that amazing award, I met a mentor who then started crunching numbers in a way I didn't even know it was possible to crunch numbers that way.
Mm.
And it took him a little while to get me to understand these things because it's a different language.
Yeah.
Um, and he explained that I could keep growing the business the way I was, which is basically, if you imagine a triangle and I'm at the top here
Mhm.
and we've got the customers here and the staff and the supervisors. We could keep growing like that. But what was going to happen is that the culture and ethos was going to get diluted because the distance between me and the customer was getting bigger and bigger.
Mm.
We
Mm.
could preserve it though by franchising. So
Yeah.
by multiplying the model which is what we ended up doing. It took a couple of years because I did have an allergic reaction to franchising. I had seen it previously and thought it was a really weird arena. Yeah, it was an allergic reaction. And when the mentor said about it, I said, that's the F word as far as I'm concerned. And it took him a while to convince me and to believe that we could franchise in our own spirit and preserve our culture, preserve our ethos. We did not need to look and behave like those other franchise companies that I didn't feel connected with, I didn't feel an affinity with. We then became the live client of the MBA cohort at Bournemouth University, who spent a year analysing not just Domestic Angels of business, but they analysed the domestic cleaning industry, the economy, the franchise industry, and pulling everything together in order to guide me as to the direction to go. And again, a whole new experience, a whole new load of words that I'd never heard of, but it gave me the foundation stones to do a conversion that is super solid
Mm.
and is very intentional in what it wants to achieve. So 2019, we recruited our first franchisee,
Mhm.
who was amazing and did the full 5 years and
Mm.
created a super, super, super business. Obviously, if I say 2019, you know what happened the year after. We
Yes.
crashed into the
Mm.
pandemic.
Nightmare.
And whilst we had managed to expand to 5 franchisees at that point, the pandemic had a lot of negative and positive impacts on so many of us.
Mm.
And it dramatically impacted us, some people's hearts and minds quite disastrously. Other people were more resilient. We couldn't have predicted that. We just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
what it did tell me is that even though we'd done all of that research and work and super stuff, there were items within the franchise agreement, for example, and the processes that we could make even better
Mm.
in order to ensure long-term resilience. So I did spend another 2 years just focused entirely on that resilience and bringing everything into place. We've emerged, obviously, we recovered and emerged wonderfully from
Mm.
the pandemic, slightly different shape, what we did. And then we've spent the last 18 months and a bit responding to the changes in legislation from the current government. So we're really, really keen to always be improving. Um, yeah, it's quite a long story, really, but then 25 years of trading is a long story, isn't it?
It certainly is. It certainly is. And it's interesting to hear how you've kind of gone through that sort of morphing into what you are now. Just because our theme for this month, June, as we're
Yeah,
recording this in the collective, is territories.
yeah.
How do you think your territory research has impacted or has changed from what you were doing then to what you would expect from a franchisee now?
Well, this is the really, really cute part about having run Domestic Angels for so long, with me directly as the manager and then having supervisors in place. I'd already tested the model in lots and lots of different ways before we converted to franchise. So massive amount of experience and knowledge, and also an awful lot of spreadsheets and figures to substantiate our recommendations and decisions making, especially around what a territory is and what territory definition should be. So we know that the business model can run off of between 16 and 18,000 chimney pots.
Mm,
So when
mm,
I say chimney pots, that is homes. So a chimney pot might belong to a semi-detached house or an apartment. Okay. So I then need to add in the fact that we are looking for people to come on board as franchisees who may not have run a business before and will be starting in a blank area, so
mm,
a
mm,
territory where we haven't traded in before. So then we added on another 7,000 chimney pots to make it up to 25,000 chimney pots as our standard definition. So any one territory needs to have 25,000 chimney pots that's what we're looking for. That's our optimum in order to ensure that there is sufficient customer potential
in
to
that area.
succeed. Now,
Mm,
in addition to that, the territory needs to include a whole range of demographics, a
mm,
whole range of different house sizes and shapes. And this is because, again, because of my own personal experience, I know an area an area within the whole territory that I was running the original Domestic Angels in, where you would think, yay, we want to get in there. We want every single house. They're huge houses with loads of land. And that's going to be cash cow. Not so.
no.
These people are property rich and cash poor.
Mm,
So, first of all, they don't want to pay their invoices. And second of all, they will accuse you of all sorts of damage very quickly because they want new
brilliant.
carpets or whatever.
Ah,
So Yes, do you know what? You're always gonna find some great customers in pots like that, but they're probably not the most attractive. Don't be misled into thinking, "Oh, big houses, big money." Not true. And then the other thing that we know is that our older clients who want 2 hours a week are super stable and always pay immediately. And
Mm,
that's because they build on relationships. And if what the thing that Domestic Angels is about more than anything else, it's about humans and relationships. So you're looking for those people that are going to be stable, connected, and are going to be honourable in the contract between us and them.
mm.
So there's the kinds of things we're looking for. You don't want a field, can't clean blades of grass or sheep. You know that's not
No,
happening.
no, no.
uh, and the regular weekly domestic clean is our bread and butter.
Mm,
Then we add some jam and cream around that. And that might be holiday homes, spring cleans, or end of tenancy. And so, whilst they charge higher because you're talking about one off, therefore your risk is slightly higher in terms of satisfaction and payment, they are not stable income.
mm.
Having that stable income, that stable relationship also means you have a stable relationship with your staff and they therefore are stable in their nature. So this is all about peace of mind and everybody feeling comfortable and secure rather than
In that.
high money, high risk.
Mm. Interesting. One of the things that I'm running a masterclass, as you know,
Yeah.
on territories, and one of the things that we're really sort of I think is really important is making sure that people are um, comfortable with what's going on, how they're going to structure their business within that territory. So, whilst you can give them as a franchisor the kind of the blueprint, if you like, in terms of what they should look for, they've still
Mm.
to be able to go into that place and be able to think, right, okay, so does this resonate with what I want to do? Can I manage
Yeah.
in this space? And it's interesting you said about the fields and things because people are in kind of concentrated areas in any territory, so it's making sure you can drive to it and stuff like that. So we're really
Yeah.
we make sure
Yeah,
that
and I would never rule out rural areas because some people are
mm,
rural based. I hope that some of our franchisees will be rural based and they will know their villages and they will know their roots around.
mm,
The way of addressing that is the same as any urban area, is looking for the territory and defining the territory that works for you as an individual.
mm,
So,
yeah,
where do you already go? Where are your school gates?
yes,
So, because if you go to school gates and you say, "Hello, Mum Julie, I've started a new venture. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to be looking for customers and I'm going to be looking for staff." Mum Julie can help you out with that because
mm,
everybody will become your postman.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's what you're looking for, and that's the easy way to find postmen rather than doing cold calling or cold leafleting. And when we do provide leaflets for people because you need to raise your profile, and we create the web page and the social media, and we help get all of that going. And a lovely press release as well. Of course, we want to get things
Yeah, good,
off the
yeah,
ground. But one of the really magic factors is using your already existing networking spots. So
mm,
where do you go already? Where's the sports centre? Where's the school gates? Where are these things that you already frequent, where people already know you? And it's not that you're going to go up and say, "Julie, do you need a cleaner? Have you got one already? Can I take over?" There's nothing to do with
yeah,
that.
no,
It was
no,
to do with the fact that people will be your postman and they will also be your cheerleaders and help to grow your business really quite naturally, in actual
mm,
fact.
mm. And that's what will make the business long term really
Yeah.
sort of sustainable
Oh
in
my gosh.
going
We,
moving forward.
yeah, with a couple of our territories, because we take that approach, they are oversubscribed. They have waiting lists.
Yeah, fantastic, eh? What a
So,
nice
yeah.
problem to have.
I know. We want to say it's a nice problem, but we feel so guilty about it
I'm
sometimes because
not
we know
doing it.
there's people there
Yeah.
that are waiting.
So one of the things that I want to touch on, Sam, is you're very different from some of the other cleaning franchises out there in that you employ, as a franchisee, you
Yeah.
employ your angels as opposed to them working on a self-employed basis. How does that work in terms of keeping the staff and managing that process?
Okay, so, employed or self-employed always has, jeopardy around it. So there's always some sort of risk. However, there's more security if you employ the staff. A self-employed person could legally actually call you up today and say, "I'm not going to that client anymore. I'm doing something else,"
Yeah.
and just drop you in it basically. Now,
Mm.
at the same token, if the person's employed, they could phone you up and say, "I'm really uncomfortable with that customer. I don't want to go to them anymore." You go, "Fine, okay. Can you go one more time today?" Unless you feel threatened, obviously, we have to go through procedures,
Yeah, yeah.
and I will find another angel to out of the team to
Mm,
take over from next week, and we'll find you another customer to go to in
mm.
place of that person. So you do actually have more stability and security because you're employing the staff. Now, the other element to this is people might think that it's much more complicated to employ than it is to have self-employed. Yes and no. No, because you still have a great responsibility for self-employed people. You still need to make sure that they have done all their health and safety. It's not their responsibility, it's yours.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, you have to make sure that they've got insurance. You need to make sure that they are paying themselves correctly. Now,
Mm,
this is a little bit mysterious. People think, oh, it's up to them to set their rates. Well, yes, but there is technically a responsibility for you to make sure that they're still receiving a living wage above having their business insurance, their phones, and da 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 da. So there's a that coming along in the background. It's not so much talked about at the moment, but it's very much coming through. Plus, if that self-employed person has been working for you for some time, they can be interpreted as being employed.
that's true. That is true. I've heard that. Yes. Yeah.
In which case, you will still have all the responsibilities as an employer, but you might have to backdate.
Mm,
Depending on which agency, whether it's HMRC or the Fair Work Agency, does the interpretation and how it applies. So there's lots of complications. For me, it was really important to employ the staff
mm,
because we've known all along that it's predominantly female. We've
mm,
known all along that predominantly mums, and we know that those people come to us because they feel safe with domestic angels. They
mm.
feel a degree of security and they feel like they're still in control of their lives. So that if little Johnny is sick in the morning, they know that they can phone up and say, I've got to be at home with him today because he's sick, but he can go to grandma's tomorrow.
Yeah.
So can I move that client to tomorrow? And they can do that. Whereas if they were at a supermarket, the shift would just get cancelled. So they would have no way of earning that money another
Mm,
day.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um,
from a franchisee point of view,
yeah,
you are not necessarily out there doing the cleaning. You're managing a team of cleaners who you
absolutely.
employ, and you're kind of putting them in the right
Yeah.
direction.
It's what we refer to as a management franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, I do know that one or two of the franchisees do like to go out on the tools.
Yeah.
So they might like to look after a customer on a regular basis, but they also like to go out and do a job with angels from time to time. And it's a great way of engaging with the team and showing that support and just checking everything's all right. Not necessarily sort of like spying at them, but just checking that the customer is okay, that the house is okay. So if you've got an inkling that there's something not right in a house, why not go along and join in the
And
clean
have a look. Mm,
and have a look? But the
mm,
idea is that our franchisees are management franchisees, and they learn to recruit, to be good employers, to source new customers and be really good at customer service. So it's about communication and organization more than anything else.
Success in any franchise model is a two-way street. You have the franchisor's responsibility and you have the franchisee's responsibility. Where do you see that in Domestic Angels in terms of how do you support the franchisees and where do they have to carry their own weight?
Okay, right at the beginning, early doors, we are very, very involved because we want to deliver good comprehensive training,
Mm,
and we tend to tailor that training around the individual. We've got standard modules, but you know and I know that some people have got more knowledge in one area than they have in another area. So even in the areas that they've got the knowledge, we need to check it's the same knowledge as that we work into, just in case there's some modification required there. But we might need to take more time in the areas where they've got zero knowledge.
mm,
So that training and mentoring from day one is super important to us. And I have a most amazing franchise manager who gets super involved with new franchisees coming on board. And we continue that for about 90 days
mm,
so that we are
yeah.
liaising, contacting, talking with the franchisees on a daily basis and hi, how you doing today? How can we help you? Hi, how you doing today? How can I help you? So they never feel like they're incredibly on their own because
Mm,
that's one of the things when you're in business is feeling the loneliness. And if we can straighten that out and set the standard from day one, then by the time we all graduate after 90 days and we go into the normal routine, they know they can pick up the phone to us or email into the group. So what we have that goes on all of the time from that is we have a Monday morning meeting at 10:30 where all the franchisees are welcome and invited, and we are see how everybody's getting on. Anybody got any stories to tell from this week? Anybody got any questions or challenges? And we share some news updates here and there.
mm,
And of course, we have a WhatsApp group with everybody in,
mm.
which is a really good place to say, "Oh my goodness, you never guess what happened."
Yeah. I bet there's quite
And
a lot of that as well.
yeah, we always someone come back and say, "That's happened to me." That's fine. So you
Yeah,
have this
yeah.
shared knowledge, shared experience, support, and the franchisees are very happy to help each other, especially the ones who are more established. When it comes to new franchisees, they're really happy to take the call and help them along. So you also have an additional mentor in effect. However, none of this is possible unless the franchisees put in the time and the effort. Now,
Mm,
we're not talking about 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're talking about stepping up and honoring the commitment that we've all discussed prior to you getting underway, because we do a lot of chatting with the franchisees before you get underway. And that means you're putting in a few hours every day, concentrated, concerted, deliberate, intentional effort
mm,
in order to get your business underway, that you're following the process, that you're following the guidance. And, we have got, it is quite broad what we've got on offer, um, but it does all work.
mm.
If a franchisee decides to skip outside of that and buy themselves 2,000 leads on Instagram, followers on Instagram, then
Right.
that's not our recommendation because those followers aren't really following you. That's a waste of money. And there's no need to do that. It's a follow the process, follow the recommendation, and talk with us every day because either Liz or myself or one of the other franchisees will say, how about trying this? Have you tried that? Yes, that's obviously working for you. That's probably not a good idea. And we are all very consistent in our understanding and how it works. So it's about honoring that time and commitment is the quid pro quo. If the franchisees do that, if they follow the process
Mm.
and they put in the hours, it will happen.
I think that's a really important point because one of the things that I think is really good in a good franchise network is that the franchisees can talk to each other and
Yeah.
you've got somebody to go to. And there's always somebody if you've got a problem where you say, "Oh my goodness, this has happened. I don't know what to do." You pick up the phone and somebody in the group will put their hand up and say, "Actually, that happened to me
Yeah.
and here's what I did." And it could either be, "Here's what I did and don't do that because it didn't
Mhm.
work,"
Yeah.
or oh yeah, I did that and here's how I solved it, or Sam or Liz helped. And so I think you've always got that kind of support group. I think one
Yeah,
of the things that franchisees often see is I don't want anybody too close to me as in the next territory because they're competition, and they're absolutely not. And that's how the territories are built. Just going back to that territory thing, Sam, how
mm,
do, when you look at your 25,000 chimney pots in an area, 26 years of doing franchisee recruitment has taught me a lot. And one of the things that I've found is that new franchisors
yeah,
will give away huge territories to
mm,
entice people in, and then they don't work the whole of that territory. Equally, franchisees think, oh my goodness, I've only got one small town. How is that going to be enough? When in fact, there's huge potential there because of the movement and as you said earlier, the people that live in there.
yeah.
Are your territories now more defined and smaller than they were in terms of size, or have they kind of stayed the same?
No, they've stayed the same. We got the numbers right, but as I described at the top of uh, the call, we were fortunate enough to become these clients of the MBA cohort. So we had an awful lot of intentional thinking in how to make these definitions, and we've been able to and prove again that we had it right, and it stacks up every single time.
Yeah. And I think that is so important. There are so many franchise brands out there that I've seen that they come to the franchise market and they say, "Oh, I've franchised my business. This is what I've got." And the structure and the research that's gone into it behind is not there. It's just not there, and
No,
quite scary.
yeah, and the way I'm talking about it would actually terrify some of those
Mm.
people in the market, because they are of a school of thought that would say, right, you should divide up the country before you even get underway. And the bottom line is we are in the business of humans. And if the human is on the edge of one of, say, you have a territory that's like that because you divided up the country already,
Mm.
and they live right on the edge here, then their network is going to be partly in there and partly over there. So you've already made them 50%, their chances of being successful reduced to 50% because they
Mm.
don't know over there.
Yeah.
So whilst it's contrary to the majority, we prefer to work around the human, because I want all of these people who come on board to be as successful as possible. I really respect the trust that they put into me and Domestic Angels to come on board and be themselves and believe in themselves. And I watch them
Mm.
truly challenge themselves because they come on and go, yeah, I can do this. I absolutely trust that I can do this with Domestic Angels and Sam. And it's nothing unusual to see a franchisee wobble because
Mm.
their self-belief, their confidence is
Mm.
challenged. But
Mm.
we've got them.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
got them. We've got their back. We've already put them in the most successful possible position we can. And so we just have to lift them up and support them.
I love the fact that you're saying about the human in franchising, because that's what Belinda and I are so focused on at the moment, because there isn't.
Mhm.
And I totally agree with you with the territory business. It's very easy to do a mapping exercise and say, well, there are 100 territories. But when you look at a territory, it needs to be a little bit fluid. Well, that this town also covers that little bit there because it's where people move to when in their daily lives, and people have patterns that they
Yeah.
do. So, for example, I live in Lincolnshire, and whilst Lincoln is my county town, I live right in the middle of lots of different towns. And
Yes.
because of the way the town is structured, people where I live navigate to Newark rather than Lincoln, which is
Hmm.
an easy transition. So you would think that the territory would be part of the Lincolnshire area, but actually it needs to be a little bit of both. So there needs to be some flexibility. I've also
Yeah.
found over the last 26 years that people do not cross big roads and rivers. So they don't go beyond, they stay on their side of the river almost.
Yeah,
And
it's true.
and
It's
and and
it's
so you've
true.
got you've got to build it, build it around that. It sounds very childish saying big roads, doesn't it? But you know what I mean, motorways
No,
and
no, no, but it does divide a conurbation without a
yeah,
shadow of a
yeah,
doubt.
yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
does. So, Sam, outside of um, domestic angels, I know you're very active in going up to Westminster, for example.
Yep.
And do you want to just tell us very briefly a little bit about that? Because I think this is where domestic angels is great because the outside stuff that you do impacts what you do inside as well. Is that right?
Yeah, it very much does. So, um, I consider myself to be a business person who happens to be in franchising, rather than a franchise person that's in business.
Mm,
And business fascinates me
mm,
um, on so many levels. So I have a really vast interest on what's happening in legislation, in the economy, how all of these different elements impact us. And arguably, I give a little bit too much time to that rather than just being selfish and focusing on my business.
mm,
However, for me, the two go hand in hand. And again, this comes along with our ethos, our culture, and the human.
mm,
So if I'm as a business leader with franchisees who are business owners, it seems to me absolutely logical that I should be understanding all of this
mm,
evolution, but also speaking up about it
mm,
because we don't have enough people who are in the micro SME sector speaking up about what ought to be happening and what ought not to be happening. And over the years, through lots of different fortunate events, seeing opportunities and the right conversation here and there, I find myself in Westminster, in Parliament,
mm,
sort of like once every 6 weeks
mm,
in debate over business
mm,
and what might ought to be happening or what should be happening in the future. We've talked about AI. We talk about an awful lot of stuff that is going to be way down the line and the changes that might come to our country. And I also therefore have an opportunity to debate what's already on the table and being proposed or what's happened that isn't clever for the micro and SME sector.
mm,
You'll have all heard on the news so many people saying, oh, people who are like senior politicians have no business experience. It's true.
mm,
And they certainly don't know about the micro and SME sector. They're
yeah,
actually scared of us because we are so unknown.
mm,
So to have this opportunity, I really value it. And I write articles on a regular basis that are published and quoted um, on exactly that same subject. So
mm,
it's one of those things that has naturally come to me. I suppose it's an arena that is comfortable for me
mm,
to understand and talk about. I know it's not comfortable for everybody else. And I've allowed it to evolve and advance because it's comfortable for me and because I do have so much knowledge on the micro and SME sector. But
mm.
I also really feel the it's not so much a responsibility. Responsibility sounds like a weight, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not.
Um, but it's something that is part of my role as business leaders. Okay, so this is the difference between a business owner and a business leader. I'm a business leader.
Mm.
Let's
Yes,
call it
huge
that
difference.
because I do this work because I have a voice in Parliament and I am representing my franchisees and
Mm,
I'm representing the angels and therefore the customers.
mm,
This is important. So, yeah, let's say that differentiates me from a business owner. I'm a business leader, and I value this opportunity that's come to me to
mhm,
make a difference. Um, for example, we are about to consult with the angels over a consultation paper that's come out of government. There's a 2 month window to submit what you think. We've got a load of ideas as employers, but we want the angels themselves to contribute. So we are structuring a consultation so that those women who are part-time flexible workers who think that they don't count apart from with us, that they can be heard even more. So we want to amplify their voices. We want to give them a route to amplify their voices. That is so, so important.
Mm, mm,
So, so important because everybody should feel enfranchised, even in the franchise sector.
mm. I totally agree. I totally agree. So, one last note, Sam,
Mm.
before we close, and thank you so much for being here today. Um, if you were to talk to somebody who is um, thinking about franchising their business, they've got a
Yeah.
business, they want to know whether it's a good whether this is a good idea. What's the one piece of advice that you would give them that you've learned from your experience as a franchisor?
Um, don't feel obliged to comply.
Interesting.
It's
Very
okay to disrupt.
yes, yeah, and that kind of fits nicely with what Belinda and I are doing actually, because we are, one of the things that we say is, franchising is not a one thing fits all. It
No.
Each franchise brand is different, has different structure. All cleaning brands are not the same. All fast food brands are not the same. They all have their unique offering,
Yeah.
and I think it's important to hold on to that as you go
Yeah.
along.
You can be yourself. Keep expressing
Mm,
yourself. Domestic Angels is an expression of my personality. Your business should be an expression of your personality. And there is nothing in the rule books that says just because you've chosen the franchise route that you should lose that. That
yeah,
is a misconception that has been
yeah,
created by a sector of the franchise industry that would prefer you to comply and operate in the way that they do. You don't have to. It's fine.
yeah. I think one of the big things that we say is you've got to, when you're looking at franchising your business, you've got to understand that you are now setting up, whilst you are going to still be active in your pilot operation, if you like, you're setting up a training, coaching, and recruitment business. So you're
Mm.
recruiting, training, and helping people to run their business under your brand. So you can't, you've, if you don't like helping people, then don't do it, would be my kind of advice.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think you hit on a really good point about, pilot phase. Uh, just decide you're always in a pilot phase. It doesn't matter how many years you are down the line, you are in a pilot phase because
Yeah.
each time that your business grows, whether you grow that way or that way, whatever shape it happens to be, it's a pilot phase because it's
Mm,
testing the foundations, it's testing the
mm,
processes. So always, always assume and accept that you are in a pilot phase of some description.
mm. I think the great thing about domestic angels is that, you're constantly checking what's going
Mm.
on, how that's working, and that's how a good franchisor, in my mind,
Love,
should be.
love turning stones. Ooh, there's a stone to turn. Let's do it.
Yeah. Sam, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really insightful, and I'm sure people are gonna find it really useful.
I just want people to be successful in business.